Science, like love, has her little surprises.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the channel if this is your first time. This is part of a library tour. It's a very specific part of the library tour because I'm just going to talk about books by Richard Matheson, with a few other books that are about Richard Matheson or mention Richard Matheson a lot. So most of this video are my Richard Matheson collection. So this dates back from when I did a massive unhaul months ago, from when you're watching this, and basically because I kept so much of what I was looking through to unhaul, I considered that the start of a library tour. And then I've continued to go through my books and tell you what I've got, because I've quite enjoyed watching other people's library tours, and I thought it might spark off discussions about books and that. So there's a playlist with all of this stuff in it, and now I'm at the stage where I'm just going through a few more to finish with that are more centered on authors, or the graphic novel one. I haven't done the graphic novel one yet. I don't know if you've seen that yet, because I'm not sure what order they're going to go up in. But this is Richard Matheson. So Richard Matheson is the contender for my all-time favourite author. It's a fight between Richard Matheson and Ray Bradbury, and I absolutely love what Richard Matheson does. I discovered him very early, thanks to the Twilight Zone, so I will mention the Twilight Zone later on. But this isn't a more in-depth kind of biographical kind of video about Richard Matheson. I will do that later, because what I do want to do in about 9 or 10 months time is start a deep dive on Richard Matheson. So I'm in the process of doing one on Ray Bradbury, and when I either finish it or get to the end of it, I want to start one on Richard Matheson, because I want to read everything that I've got again, because almost everything I've read, yeah, with a few exceptions, and there are a few gaps as well. So I will do a deep dive on Richard Matheson once I've done my Ray Bradbury one. But for now, as part of my library tour, I'll show you my Richard Matheson books. So I Am Legend, his most famous book. I'm starting with the most famous one, and this is a really plain looking Galanz one, but there's something nice about it. Part of the well, Galanz was the publisher that ended up doing the SF Masterworks, so it's not an SF Masterworks series or anything, but this is that publisher. I have got the SF Masterworks one as well. I've actually got 4 different copies of this book, but I lent that one out. So that one looks like this. But that's the first one I'm showing, the big bright yellow version of I Am Legend, hardback version of I Am Legend. This is my favourite copy of I Am Legend. I love this little corgi one. I think it's awesome. And this is the one that I recently reread again when I was recovering from COVID a couple of years ago, and I couldn't move. I was stuck in bed for ages, and I reread this in pretty much one sitting, and it was glorious to reread it again like that. So that's pretty cool. And this is a very similar cover. This one, it's the same illustration, but with a slightly different font for the title. Yeah, I absolutely love this book so much. So I Am Legend. If you've seen the films, you still haven't read the book. They're so different. I'll get about well, there is a video on I Am Legend actually, so I will probably end up putting that at the end of the video, and if not, I'll put it in the description. Anyway, also another one I've got 2 copies of, The Shrinking Man. Another one I really love, another one of his famous ones, and he wrote the screenplay for the film of this as well. He wrote a lot of screenplays, which again I'll get into more when I do a more of a biographical video on Richard Matheson, which I would love to do. I'm very excited about doing that. So The Shrinking Man, again, a nice lovely corgi version there, and then this is the SF Masterworks one, and I can't get that sticker off. These stickers that just damage the book. I think Jules Burt, I think that's his name, has done a video on getting rid of these stickers. I watch his channel a lot, so I really hope I got his name right, because I watch his channel a lot. If you're watching this thinking, why have I mentioned you in the description, I watch your channel a lot. I think it's Jules Burt, isn't it? Anyway, he's done a thing about get rid of annoying stickers. So yeah, The Shrinking Man, that's the really cool illustration, but that's my favourite version of that. And then he's got these shock books. So for some mad reason that it's just me when I get my favourites. I've got 2 copies of Shock 2, and I've looked for since I was 16, which is a long time ago. I've looked for Shock 1, and I know you can get it online, and I will probably get that before I do my deep dive. But I've got Shock 2 and I've got Shock 3, and I've had these a long time. So I've never seen Shock 1 in the wild, but they're fantastic short stories. Some of his really famous short stories are in these collections. So Shock 1, 2 and 3 are awesome. And again, there's another Shock 3 there. Sorry, Shock 3, another different cover. So clearly that's in that line, that edition. So Shock 3, I've got that as well. I haven't got any other duplicates, have I? Yeah. Third from the Sun is another short story collection. Very good short story collection that I really like a lot. And then I've got 2 copies of Shores of Space. So again, I've got this really nice one that is from, can't see that very well. I think it might be Corgi again. But then I've got a really little Corgi one here, which I really like. So there's that one, which I've had a long time. I've had this book so long, which is really cool. And then another copy of Shores of Space, which is a little Corgi one, which again, I really love that photo. I love that cover, sorry, the illustration. And I love the design of it as well. There's something really cool about it. And again, a very old one. But that's another short story collection. Another short story collection, which is called Button, which is one of my favourite stories by him. So this has got some really good stories, actually. So this was quite relatively recently released, and it's got some really good stories in it. Button is definitely one I would recommend that you read. It's a fantastic story, and they made a really terrible film called The Box, where they just decided to add loads of stuff to the story because they thought it wasn't interesting enough. And then one more collection, which is right at the bottom of this pile here. Just use this one next, which is Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, Horror Stories by Richard Matheson. There is a collection called The Best of Richard Matheson, which I haven't bought yet, and I've got to be a proper completist to get it, because all of the stories are in these different collections. I probably still will get it, because I love Richard Matheson so much. But you will get that a lot. You'll get repeated stories in these collections. So you might only get 3 or 4 collections, and you've got all of these stories that appear a lot in these different collections that come out. So Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, named after one of his most famous stories, because it was also featured in the Twilight Zone 3 times. So there's 3 different Twilight Zone versions. There's the original one with William Shatner in it. There's the movie version with John Lithgow in it. And there's also a new version in the Jordan Peele newest version of the Twilight Zone, which is really good as well. So, yeah, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, fantastic story. Another one there from Richard Matheson. So, let's have a look at, these are all novels now, I think now. Yeah, pretty much. So, we've got one that I discovered by accident. I was very excited because I hadn't heard of it when I got it. Earthbound by Richard Matheson. So, if you haven't heard that one, science fiction... Sorry, I've got a cold, got a cough. Sorry, science fiction novel from Richard Matheson. There's the man himself. That was a really cool find. This is quite famous because this was made into a film, Stir of Echoes. So you may have seen the Kevin Bacon film. The book's better, but you know, the book's, it's the way he writes. He's got such a beautiful way of writing, I think. So Stir of Echoes is pretty famous, I think, because of that. This is also one that has been made into a film, and he wrote the screenplay for the film version of this as well. That's Hell House. He also wrote the screenplay for the original version of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House as well. So I think that's an interesting parallel, because they're clearly classic haunted house stories. So Hell House, Richard Matheson, is another really cool book. And this is another famous book because of it being filmed, and that's What Dreams May Come. So What Dreams May Come is filmed by obviously a bunch of people, but starring Richard sorry, Robin Williams, Robin Williams. I'm seeing Richard there, it's distracting me. Robin Williams was in the film of What Dreams May Come, and it's quite a nice film. It's quite a soft and fluffy book by Richard Matheson. But again, the book's better, but it would be because of the way he writes. But yeah, famous because of the film as well. And I'll tell you what, I'll just say now, and I'm sure I'll get this by the time I do the deep dive, but there is a hole in the collection, which is another film adaptation example. There's a story he wrote called Bid Time Return, which was released as a film called Somewhere in Time, which had Christopher Reeve in it, and I haven't got that book, and it's quite expensive to buy now. So it's been out of print for ages, and even if you try and get second-hand copies, they're quite expensive. So I'm hoping to find it in the wild or nab a cheaper version on eBay or something if I can, if I keep looking. But Bid Time Return, or Somewhere in Time, is sometimes called on the cover, is definitely a gap. So there we go. This is a book that I got. I quite like it, actually, even though some people have quite rightly said it's not perfect, that the narrative meanders a bit and doesn't quite make the landing. But I really like it, and I like the idea of it, and I didn't mind the ending so much. And I've got 2 copies of it, so I think I ordered it, and then I don't know, I got these in quick succession. I think I forgot that I'd ordered it and then ordered it again. So 7 Steps to Midnight. It's got a really cool premise, but again, I'll talk about that when I do a deep dive. But I've got that one, and then I've got a hefty hardback. So I've said in a few different videos, especially in this library tour, that I don't really like hardbacks as much as paperbacks, because if I compare these, this will last longer, but hardbacks are also vulnerable as well, and this is smaller and it's more fun to hold when you're reading it as well. I find this is just a bit cumbersome, yeah. But 7 Steps to Midnight, I've got 2 copies of that, like I have for so many of these books. So I recently got Noir, which is 3 novels by Richard Matheson in the kind of crime suspense thriller kind of style. So that was an awesome find. Found that at Forbidden Planet, so I was really excited to find that. It's not very often I see Richard Matheson stuff I don't have, so that was really cool. So I've got Noir, and then the other one I'm going to finish with, he's done a few westerns, and I now have one of his westerns, and I've got it. It's a really lovely package, really, and I tell you what, I'm shocked that the condition is just crazy, because this dates back to the 70s, and it's not new, it's second hand, but it is pretty much new. The condition of it is crazy. So again, that is a bit of praise for hardbacks, because it wouldn't be this great condition if it wasn't new. But Journal of the Gunyahs is the book by Richard Matheson. Beautiful version. Journal of the Gunyahs. So if you've read this, or you've read anything, there's one that he wrote about Wild Bill Hickok, and there's another one he wrote as well. Just got Shadow. I think it's about Native Americans. I'm not sure. Shadow Warriors, is it? Something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, so there are a few gaps in my collection with this kind of thing. And there's more recent things he's written as well, which I need to be more completist with. But that's where I'm finishing, because this is just an amazing find, because it is just beautiful condition, and it's a bit different to what he normally writes. So I was really pleased to get it. So there we are. So, oh, and then I was just going to put right at the end of this, these 3 books. So this is really general, but because he had such an important part to play in the Twilight Zone, this does talk about Richard Matheson a fair bit. Everything I need to know I learned in the Twilight Zone. It's a really good analysis of the social commentary, morals, and general messaging, or definitely general point of the stories of the Twilight Zone. In general, Rod Serling's stories tend to be a lot more moralistic than Richard Matheson's ones, but he does get a mention in there. And obviously there is that. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about that, but there is the Twilight Zone companion as well, and he gets talked about a lot in this, because he's written so many episodes, and there's nice sort of biographical information about all of the writers of the Twilight Zone in that book. And then there's a really nice book here, which is The Twilight and Other Zones, The Dark Worlds of Richard Matheson. And what's really nice about this is it's loads and loads of different people talking about him, like speeches they've made about him, introductions to books that are focused on him, that kind of thing. It's a really interesting collection. So if you are interested in Richard Matheson, look out for this one, because it is a really nice find. It's quite unusual, I think, to get an anthology of random stuff, that some of it being vocal speeches that have been made on his behalf, or about him, for him, or these introductions to his stories and in anthologies and that kind of thing. So it's really cool. So yeah, The Twilight and Other Zones is that one. And then this one is called He is Legend, and it's these writers here and a few others, Stephen King, Joe Hill, Whitley Strieber, all these different people writing stories as tributes to Richard Matheson as well. So yeah, that's a really cool thing that I have. That's another thing that I couldn't help but get it. I put it on a Christmas list once, and I'm quite pleased. I've seemed to have put it in the right place since having it, and it's very nice condition, which is lovely, because that does mean a lot to me. So there we go. So He is Legend, an anthology collection celebrating Richard Matheson. So this video is a part of this library tour, but it is also celebrating Richard Matheson. But I will do it in much more of a detailed way sometime towards the end of next year, I think. But let me know what you think of Richard Matheson, and if any of those books surprised you. And thanks a lot for watching. Bye.